ये रेडियो पाकिस्तान पॉडकास्ट है।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ali Kazmi. Welcome to the program. And today we all know it's Labor Day, and we are going to talk about some important things related to labor. And for this purpose, we have a very special guest, Barrister Omar Masood Saab. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
And further, as we are speaking with him, he has completed his studies in England and a very promising young barrister, and he is going to talk with us about the labor laws. And but before that, I would like to ask, in fact, the audience and people would like to know about yourself and your career. Please.
Right. So thank you so much for the lovely introduction. So by profession, I'm an advocate. I recently completed my Bar at Law and LLM from England. I went there in 2023. I spent almost a year there, or you can say a little more than a year. And recently, I have come back and I've started practicing as an advocate. So primarily, my law practice revolves around civil disputes and mostly commercial disputes relating to arbitration and construction contracts. So other than that, I have developed a keen interest in human rights and subsequently labor laws. All of these things are vital in the context of having a peaceful and prosperous country. And when I especially think about Pakistan, I think it's necessary that we as a society, we start to inculcate all of these values within us so that all of us can have a very bright future ahead.
Really right. Now, talking about Labor Day, we all know it's an important topic. So, tell us about the history a little bit and how it should be celebrated in Pakistan and all over the world. And then we will talk about the labor laws also.
Yes, so if we talk about the history of Labor Day, we have to go back to 1886. That was the time when in America, specifically in Chicago, there came an incident which became famously known as the Haymarket Affair. So what happened was that the workers and the laborers, they went on strike. They stopped doing their work, and the duration, I believe, was about 8 to 10 hours that they ceased to participate in any work activities. And during that time, they engaged in various talks with the stakeholders, and it was mutually decided that they would have certain rights while they would be at work, and those rights would be such that they would be absolute. They would not be held in informity, or they will not be held in abeyance. They will continue working, and they will put the best of their ability, and the entire structure of the labor market and how workers were being treated. After 1886, the world witnessed a rapid change when countries began to sign treaties. We recently have studied, and even on international forums, you see it's very prevalent that you have something called the ILO, the International Labour Organization, to which Pakistan is also a signatory. So they enacted several conventions which guaranteed the rights of workers in their working conditions so that they will be able to have a good amount of job security at work and good working conditions, because laborers formed the backbone of the civil society. Hence, it is vital that they are given the right privileges at work so that they can perform to the best of their ability.
Very right. And we are talking about labor laws.
Yes.
So, how, as far as we will see the implementation of the labor laws, so how can we can compare these implementations of labor laws in different countries, particularly here in Pakistan also, and in other? Is there any difference lies?
Yes, well, if we talk about Pakistan and if we confine ourselves to this context for now, in Pakistan, the very soul of the law, it stems from the constitution. You have various articles in the constitution which guarantees rights for everyone, not just workers, for every citizen of Pakistan. If I talk about specifically for workers, we have Article 11, we have Article 37. Basically, what I'm trying to say is all of these articles, they talk about the right to have, humane treatment, the right to, have free movement, the right to form labor unions. So these are a few standard practices which are prevailing in many countries across the world. Since Pakistan was formerly a Commonwealth nation, so you can see that most of its laws are derived from Britain. And even in Britain or in America or in Western countries which are really developed and they have taken a big step when we talk about having labor laws which are not really just there because they're enshrined in the constitution or they're written on a piece of paper. They actually mean something because they have the backing of their system, of their judiciary, their court structures, which ensures that no wrongdoing is ever committed. And concerning ourselves to Pakistan, as I mentioned earlier, that Pakistan is also a signatory of the ILO. So Pakistan
Yes.
itself has ratified various conventions which include the right for workers to be treated fairly and the right to have equality in work. Another very important thing which I feel is critical to mention here is that women in our society should also have equal rights at work which the men have. We see that countries which are developed, you see Japan, you see China, you see many other countries, you'll notice one thing in common. Majority of their workforce is obviously it is dependent upon males, but the women working there are also working in coordination with their male counterparts. It's quite unfortunate that here in Pakistan we don't really see that. Women are deprived of their basic rights, even I would say, and they have no guarantee of surviving at the workplace when we talk about paying them equally, when we talk about fair treatment, when we talk about harassment at workplace. So Pakistan has done substantial efforts to combat this by implementing certain laws, certain enactments. Even in the provinces of Punjab and Sindh, we see that specific task forces have been formed to keep a check on the major employers who are employing hundreds of workers or maybe thousands of workers. You see in factories, you see in big tech companies or textile manufacturing companies where there are lots of workers employed there. So there are good things happening here as well. We see that Pakistan is taking a big stride in trying to protect its labor community, and it's a good sign for Pakistan and the workers here going forward.
Very right. Now, what good things? Obviously, as you have mentioned, that there is always a room of improvement, in fact, in every department, in every field. But obviously, Pakistan is doing things that are going to make things more smooth. What other things we can take or we can buy from the other countries, particularly from Britain, in order to implement the labor laws? The people would love to know about it.
Pakistan is in a state where it we need to realize, our parliament, our judiciary, every stakeholder needs to realize that having the laws only or having legislative enactments is not enough to guarantee laborers or workers the rights that they need to have. We need to have substantial mechanisms which will ensure that no injustice is being committed against any worker or against any laborer, And also, I feel as a lawyer, and this is something which I come across in my daily practice as well, we need to streamline and standardize our laws. There are too many laws for too many different things. You have the Factories Act, you have the Workplace Harassment Act of 2010, you have various other enactments. All of these, they do specify certain laws, but I feel they should come under one ambit, under one legislation, which should be entirely dedicated to workers and laborers. There's not really a need to have so many different laws. What that does is, at the end of the day, it creates a lot more confusion, because every society has blue collar workers and white collar workers. We see blue collar workers who are working on daily wages, doing jobs at factories and other places alike. So those people are incorporated in the uh, legal structure and in the legal framework, but there does not exist a proper legal framework for white collar workers, people who are employed in companies, people who are employed in MNCs or other places. So there is a slight gray area which I feel that the parliament, they should take note of it. There should be a proper, thorough look into it as to how there are certain legal gaps which can be filled in order to streamline the entire legal framework, so that every person comes under the same bracket. There's no need to go to different laws or to, constantly be reading different rules or different statutes, because at the end of the day, the person that is affected, he or she cares about what the system has, what what you can say, what specific mechanism the system has put in place for it, so that if they have a concern or if they have some sort of problem, they can go to that forum and they can address their issues. There should be proper vigilant committees, there should be proper task forces. And by mentioning task forces, I mean not just task forces based on 5 or 6 people. That just wouldn't really fit the bill right now, because if, let's say, you have 5 to 10 people who are managing about maybe 200 or 300 workers, it's just too much workload for them. The state needs to realize that there should be proper forums where laborers and workers, they can go and they can address their issues, or they can, try and at least raise their voices. There should be a platform for them so that they can at least have their voices heard.
Very right. So now, as you have mentioned, that there should be a proper platform. Obviously, the labor law is really important, and it's the labor day to day. But whenever we talk about the platform, there is always a need of platform.
Yes.
So, in order to have a platform, do you think that there is a role of civil society also, and being an employee, they should be together in having a platform?
Yes, of course, the civil society is the main reason
Yeah.
why laborers and workers, they feel integrated. They need to feel a part of this society. What the civil society does is, it creates a level playing field. It creates the sort of environment, the sort of structure, the implementation which is required for workers and laborers alike to not feel a burden, or not to feel that they are not a part of this society. It needs to be more along the lines of that how the working conditions which are prevailing throughout the country. I need to, be very specific here and talk about the difference between our urban and rural centers. Obviously, the urban centers of Pakistan, because they are hugely populated, you see big cities like Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, Rawalpindi. You have millions of people working here. You have people working on daily wages, blue collar workers, white collar workers. They somehow feel integrated into this society simply because they have the need, or they have the you can say, the tools in place for them to survive and make a daily living. However, in the rural areas of Pakistan, places which are far-fetched from the big urban centers. Over there, the state needs to have some sort of a, you can say, some sort of a maybe a training program or a sensitization program for workers over there who are really surviving in harsh conditions. The conditions are not really easy out there. It's quite tough being maybe a single parent or someone who's alone at home, having just his mother or his father to look out for, whereas he's employed on daily wages. He's working tirelessly throughout the day, working 12 hours, 15 hours. So in the rural centers of Pakistan, we need to see the government taking action. We need to see them having trained these people, maybe having them trained in a vocational aspect so that they can acquire certain skills. And once they acquire certain skills, what the end result will be is that they will put those skills into use. Any vocational training can really benefit them so that the even the rural places of Pakistan, they have a consistent trend of uprising. They can learn new things and then subsequently they can migrate to different cities and put those skills that they've learned into practice. And then I feel they'll be able to integrate into the society in a much better way.
Very right. Very well explained. Now, and as you have been to Western countries, obviously, England being a Western country,
Yes.
now, have you seen any kind of difference while implementation of labor laws and white collar and blue collar, as you were talking about?
Hmm.
Is there any difference exists there also? And if it does, then how they are actually bringing this gap?
The biggest difference that I am able to point out in Pakistan and other countries, obviously, since we're talking about England, it's obviously quite developed and in a manner so which you see on a daily basis. So let's take a very small example. Any blue collar worker here would continuously work for about 10 hours or 11 hours, maybe 12. Whereas if you see even a security guard working in England in a bank or in a local convenience store, you'll see that each of the store manager, the person who's responsible, who's in charge of that worker, they'll come up to him, they'll himself, tell him to go on a 1 hour break or to go on a 30-minute break. And this will happen at every at every 5 to 6 hour interval, even though it's not something which, although there there are legislations in place, there are paid breaks in between. And if you work overtime in England as a even a blue collar or a white collar worker, you get paid overtime. This is mandated by law. If I talk about Pakistan, the law even mandates here that a worker, if he's working overtime, he should be paid for it. The problem is there is no enforcement mechanism in place that would ultimately hold the person who is responsible accountable for their actions. If a person is employing 10 or 20 workers, he is responsible for their working conditions, for their health, for their safety, for their well being. The state has given us every possible avenue that we have to secure their rights. However, I feel the problem with Pakistan is there is a lack of seriousness when we talk about the root cause or the enforcement of these laws or these core values. More than more than laws, I feel it is a society is built on good values and good gestures towards each other. If we stop thinking about these people as humans, I feel that it'll be a big problem for anyone trying to get any work out of them, simply because if you work abroad or if you go to places like Dubai or uh, Saudi Arab or even England or America, the reason why a worker is happy over there or could be content with the life he has is that whatever he's making out of his life, the state ensures that he has the right and the freedom to enjoy it. The problem here is the state is there. The government does everything they can for the workers. They'll increase the minimum wage. They'll do everything they can. They'll have good severance packages. They'll have good pension pays later on for people who are working in government related agencies or government related staff. But when the time matters most, there is no one to speak for the laborers or the workers. There are no proper forums, like I said, even trade unions or labor unions who work in cohesion, who speak up for the rights of the workers, they, unless they decide to take a decisive action for the betterment and the well-being of the workers, I feel that Pakistan will not evolve. It will not be in a position where we can ensure that each and every worker's right is being protected.
Right. Now, is there a need of proper collaboration with the other countries so that the implementations and the proper cohesion can be built?
So Pakistan recently has collaborated with several countries when we talk about enhancing labor laws
Yeah.
and enhancing compliance. Just recently, or about maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, in order to satisfy the GSP plus requirement, Pakistan signed various directives with the EU, and because there were representatives from the European Union, they also came here to Pakistan. They had official meetings with the federal ministers here who were sharing the framework for labor compliance and labor laws relating to the conventions which Pakistan is a signatory of the ILO, because Pakistan has ratified certain conventions. So Pakistan is now trying to enhance its labor compliance when we talk about international standards, because the EU has uh, they use a big market for Pakistan. It's quite a large export market. Pakistan
Yeah.
exports goods worth of billions of rupees to the EU annually. So there are certain initiatives being taken by Pakistan, which is a step in the right direction. We are seeing that various various provinces are starting to align with the federal enactment uh, of laws which are being passed by the federal government here. So you have laws which the federal government makes, and because of the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, the provincial governments can enact their own laws as well. So we have various provinces like Punjab, Sindh, and even KPK that are enacting laws for women in workplaces so that they can have better working conditions, they can have the same pay or equal pay as their male counterparts. We have various agencies within Pakistan who are working tirelessly on a daily basis to ensure that the rights of laborers are protected. You have the NCHR, the National Commission on Human Rights, who constantly keeps a lookout for unfair labor practices or inhumane labor treatment. And especially if we talk about children, children are because you have a lot of children who are out of school in Pakistan. The literacy rate compared to other
Yeah.
countries is not really anywhere that we would like it to be. However, now we have certain laws which are in place which ensure that children of less than 11 years or 10 years are prohibited from being able to work at any workplaces. And if so, and if children are being employed in the informal sector, because Pakistan's informal sector is so huge that you have millions of people who are working on daily wages and stuff like that. So Pakistan is now trying to ensure that the masses have an equal opportunity to survive and to make a good living out of their working conditions. Because at the end of the day, the state ensures that the livelihood of these people is also being protected, because like I said, if their livelihood is not protected, the civil society will not function as it functions on a daily basis. There will be various times where we see that any country, when it wishes to implement certain laws, it has dedicated teams, dedicated staff to deal with such problems once any issue comes up or there's anything which arises. So, Pakistan now is in a place where our judicial forums, our government agencies, uh, our private agencies, everyone is working together to ensure that we have good working conditions for the workers, our laborers are being kept happy, they are not in a place of deprivation, and also we have, by law, we have a mandated minimum wage which is subject to an increase on an annual basis. I feel that there should be a calculation for the increase of minimum wage based on the inflationary pressure that Pakistan faces annually. Because the problem with the minimum wage is, if you look at other countries, they increase it on a proportion which is more than what type of inflation they are experiencing. So the laborer or the worker never feels burden. The problem with Pakistan is, the more the inflation rises, the less of a proportionate amount the minimum wage increases. So that does not really make a difference to the worker's needs or his wants. So I feel Pakistan is taking steps in the right direction, but there's a lot more that Pakistan can do.
Right. Now we are coming to an end of our discussion, but the one last question that the people would like to know is that obviously you mentioned about the women's empowerment also, and
Yes,
then there is an issue of unemployment also. In fact, all over the world, not only in Pakistan, but all
indeed,
over the world.
indeed.
So, how the labor, what actually labor laws say about both these issues, the unemployment, and obviously, when we talk about proper labor laws, the labor opportunities, there should be proper employment opportunities also. So, how these things can be balanced actually?
Right. So labor laws in Pakistan are developed in a context where every section of society or every ambit covers its own various directives and prerogatives.
Right.
For people working in factories, you'll have the Factories Act. And also one thing to note is that majority of these laws, because as Pakistan was formerly a Commonwealth nation, all of these laws are derived from Britain.
Yeah.
One thing I feel which Pakistan has failed to do in the last 75 years is develop a legislative thinking where we enact laws based on the problem that laborers and workers face on a daily basis. Because when we talk about unemployment, we have the constitution which clearly states that every person has the right to work, every person has the right to move freely, every person has the right to search for job opportunities or to search for a better livelihood. There seems to be a big gap in the resources that Pakistan can possibly try and take from the public at large, or how the public views employment opportunities. But one area where we can improve on, and we can take a lesson by looking at how other countries have their laws in place. So in Britain, there is a mandated working hour for workers in a 1 week period. I believe it's not more than 50 hours. So it's impossible that if you are working as a blue collar worker, you can work above 50 hours. However, in the event that you decide to work overtime, or you're in a sector which requires you to work on holidays, or it requires you to work overtime in the hospitality sector or otherwise, you have pay scales which are significantly more than what a normal worker would receive while doing the same job. So the law itself there has mandated as well, and the employer also makes sure that he is giving the best possible conditions to his workers so that they can also work and they can feel happy about what they're doing. So in Pakistan, there are too many laws for too many different things. Like I said, we need to have a single piece of legislation which is entirely dedicated to workers. It shouldn't be for blue collar or for white collar workers, because, like I said, there's no real recourse for white collar workers. There are no specific laws in place that if a white collar worker encounters a certain problem, the legal scope or the legal ambit is such that it has a very gray area to it. There are quite a few gaps, and at the end of the day, the problem is that the employer himself tries to exploit those gaps, because every person who is employing a worker knows that what rights the worker has, what rights they have, and thus it is essential that if Pakistan is to progress, when we talk about our civil society in general, we talk about the workers, we need to make sure that we have a dedicated agency or any government department or any forum which will directly address the issues which workers face on a daily basis. Like, for example, we have the Human Rights Commission, the National Commission
Yeah.
on Human Rights. They deal with human rights issues. So if we can have different agencies for different, sectors, then I feel that there needs to be a federally mandated forum for laborers and workers. Just by having unions or labor unions and trade unions, stuff like that, I don't really think that that makes much of a big difference.
Right. So the conclusion of this whole discussion is that yes, Pakistan is doing some very good things. In fact, lots of good things, but obviously there is lot of room of improvement. We can conclude.
Yes.
Now, for the audience and viewers, any message, particularly for the youngster, those who wants to come in this field of law and regarding the labor laws, what is the message from you?
Yes. So the message from me would be quite simple, is that if you see or if you know any person who is not in a good condition or is being deprived of their basic rights, or is working in such harsh conditions that they are actually being threatened by another person's actions, then speak for it, raise your voices. uh, as you know, we're celebrating Labor Day. I feel that we need to encourage and we need to be a good moral support for these people who work tirelessly throughout the year, every day, a week, 7 days a week, 365 days a week. It is our right and it is our main obligation that we make them feel part of the society and we don't exclude them. And as lawyers, we are empowered to stand for what is right. We will always raise our voices for what should be done by the book, how should it happen, and not by how a person wishes or thinks. Because law does not work on how you think, it works on what is written in the statute, in the legislation, and what the parliament is there for. It's there to make laws. They make laws, and we, as lawyers, as advocates, we advocate them for the society. So, my message is that on this day, value those people who are working. If you're an employer, you should value your staff, your employees, because they are the reason why your establishment or your company or your workplace is held together. If they are not there, then I don't think that any company or any workplace uh, can be a good resource for any person. So value those people who are around you, and yes, as lawyers, we feel that it is our obligation to stand with the people of our society. Thank you.
So the message is very clear that we have to give value to our people and we have to stand with our right. And thank you so much for being with us, and it was pleasure having you, and it was a really good discussion, and hopefully that you people would have enjoyed discussion for sure, and we will be back with you people with another important discussion in the coming days time. Till then, it's a very goodbye.
ये रेडियो पाकिस्तान पॉडकास्ट है।